I don't like it when the hip hop community assumes something, is wrong about it, and won't come to terms with the fact that, hey, you know what? I get that there were beat makers that are credited as producers, and there are beat makers who made the transition into, real record production and stuff. But in the rock world, nobody's confused about what the producer is. In the country world, nobody's confused about the producer. You know what I mean? It is only here, and the only reason why there's confusion about it is because we allow ourselves to have these discussions that are based in emotion, bro. And I'm talking about like a record producer, right? This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing to zero in on.
There's a such thing as a record producer, bro. Like DJ Khaled is a record producer. DJ Khaled is also a beat maker, but DJ Khaled don't make the kind of beats that are going to turn into hits anymore. DJ Khaled makes the album cuts on Old Fat Joe album, but he's a record producer, so he's the person who could get Drake on the phone and get Lil Baby on the phone and get him to send the verse so that they can make Staying Alive, and then it becomes a video,
right?
And then it's an actual product that is produced, right? The people who worked on the music, it doesn't make them any less that they aren't, the record producer. They're still super talented. They're still super relevant. They're still entitled to, the 50%, the 50% of the publishing for writing the music. They're entitled to all of that. What they're not entitled to is by saying, I produced that record, because they didn't make the call to Drake. What we got to do as men, we got to stop being such bitches about this shit, bro.
Right.
And just say, you know what? We don't all got to be perceived as equals. And as a matter of fact, it's just the sexier title. Everybody wants the sexy title. And for me, that's a source of weakness to like zoom in on like, oh my God, what are people calling me?
Let me get some pushback. I hear you. Yes, there's a lot of producers with some bitch assness in them who are very, very obsessed with semantics. But I also understand when people in powerful position have a power to neg, and they know that there's certain terms that they can say, they know who they're triggering. And I find it funny whenever you see a producer well accomplished that talks about this conversation of beat maker versus producer, they don't use the term record producer. You hardly ever hear them say record producer. When it's hip hop, you just hear them say producer. That's where I strike a lot of like, nigga, look it up. Look up literally the you're producing something. I also understand that some people who rise up in an industry where the business ethics, the entire foundation was set up by people that don't look like us, establish a certain law of the land. You talk about those other genres are ran by folks that don't always look like us. I feel like it doesn't get questioned because it's like, this person is of prestige and how dare you come in here? Who are you to question it? I have issue with this producer beat maker thing because I really feel like at some level, there are people out there who understand it for what you're saying because they are organizing a lot. None of this shit happens and gets to the public without what they're doing. However, I do know there exists a space in this industry, that ecosystem, where people use that as a way to ensure that you get the least amount of percentage on this record. And a lot of these beat makers are not afforded the opportunity to rise up in the room and take over those responsibilities or even share in those responsibilities because there's people with their elbows out positioning themselves as, I'm Khaled. If I let you do this, then what do I do in here? Like, that exists. They made one play and they get 50%. Fuck out of here.
Everything you're saying is true. Everything you are saying is true.
Yeah.
But two things can be true.